is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as Mira, Costa, outlasting Huntington Beach in the CIF-SS section Division I Boys Volleyball Finals. The Mustangs are back on top as they win the battle of number 1 versus number 2 in the nation. How did the Mustangs do it, and what were some keys to winning that match? Also, the AVP is back this weekend after a 1-week break as the AVP League gets underway. Will the San Diego Snacks be able to repeat as league champions, or will Dallas Dream and 6 other teams have anything to say? Also, the AVP has a beach volleyball tournament happening, as well as the Palm Beach Open will be getting underway soon this weekend on Friday. And we've got the NCAA men's volleyball news as Moni Nikolov is going to be going pro. And we've got some transfer news on the NCAA men's and women's volleyball side as well. The hand of our Set for that. Time of our survey of the volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your feed for all that is sport. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 299 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard, as well as YouTube and on Twitch and on X as well. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to reach 500 subscribers, and with your help, we could definitely make it happen. So please do give iSports Radio a follow or subscribe to them on YouTube. Also, make sure to check out our website, isportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and so much more. These shirts are not included, by the way. Also, make sure to check out our Hall of Fame, where yours truly is inductee number 10. Also, check out our Fans of the Month and so much more on our website. For the last 11 years, because last Thursday, iSports Radio turned 11, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports stations around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on in to what our sponsors are all about. See you soon.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors. Without them, we could not keep the lights on here at IE Sports Radio. And the way you can follow SetPoint on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie. You can follow me, the host, Teran Rodriguez, personally as well, at Teran Rodriguez1. You can also follow me on Instagram, or SetPoint on Instagram, at set_point.iesr. That is basically where I'm going to be posting most of my interviews. So if I don't post them on X, I do apologize. But that's where they're mainly going to go. So without any further delay, let us also thank Kevin Pratt for his contribution to SetPoint. He does an amazing job of helping get kids to the next level at the collegiate level, from the high school level to the collegiate level. Also check out his website, middlehitter.com. It's definitely very informing. So with all that being said, let's talk some volleyball action. There's no NCAA men's volleyball happening, no NCAA women's volleyball happening, other than like transfer news and NCAA beach volleyball is done. So let's talk a little high school boys volleyball. So we'll start off with the CIF-SS section Division I boys volleyball final. And oh my goodness, it was a barn burner. So you know how the NCAA men's volleyball tournament did not have a 5-setter? Not one 5-setter in the NCAA men's volleyball tournament. Well, the 5-setter went to the CIF-7 section Division I boys volleyball final, where Mira Costa of Manhattan Beach outlasted Huntington Beach in a 5-set barn burner. It was the number 1 team in the nation versus the number 2 team in the nation. It was absolutely insane. It definitely lived up to the hype. And honestly, I'm glad to have attended. So first set, Mira Costa was pretty much all over that set. They hardly trailed at all. I think there was only one time where they trailed, or a few times they trailed. And what was weird is that they actually started off with Huntington Beach getting the first point, because apparently there was like some sort of like violation. I don't know if it was like a delay of game or something, but apparently it was some sort of delay which gave Huntington Beach the first point of the match. And but eventually Mira Costa wound up taking the first set 25-19. Then the second set, Huntington Beach got off to a very fast start, 5-0 lead. The lead eventually ballooned to 10 points at the most, but Mira Costa, being the talented team that they are, they managed to make a comeback. They got to within 2 points, but it just wasn't enough as Huntington Beach took the second set 25-22. Then the third set, Mira Costa returned the favor. They went off to a 4-0 lead. They did not look back. Try as Huntington Beach did, they literally just could not catch up to Mira Costa. And then the fourth set, this was the longest and most exciting set. Mira Costa was actually down. They were down quite a bit. They eventually took the lead at 19-18 after someone on Huntington Beach got red carded. And oh man, that was an ill-timed red card right there. Eventually, Mira Costa had 3 championship points, but Huntington Beach, being the resilient team that they are, they dodged them. Well, actually, no. Mira Costa had 4 championship points. Huntington Beach had 3 set points, and eventually they were able to get the third set point to go down, as Colin Troy had the kill to give Huntington Beach the fourth set 31-29. And then the fifth set, Huntington Beach jumped out to an early 5-4 lead, but then Mira Costa rattled off 3 straight points to go up 7-5. They did not look back after that, as their lead, I think, ballooned up to like 7 points. And Huntington Beach did have a late 4-0 run, but eventually Mira Costa went to Grayson Bradford, and Mira Costa wound up winning. It was a very exciting match, like I mentioned. Grayson Bradford is a UCLA commit. He had 25 kills, he had 9 digs, and he also had 5 blocks. He was incredible. I would not be surprised if he got Player of the Year or CIF Southern Section Player of the Year. But someone else who also stepped up was Mateo Furbringer. If you know that last name, he's the son of Joy Mackenzie Furbringer, Matt Furbringer, and the little brother of Charlie Furbringer. He had 17 kills. He would also 2 aces and 4 blocks and 5 blocks and 4 digs. They also got 9 kills apiece from Thatcher Fallbush, who just recently announced his commitment to Hawaii. So he was originally committed to Grand Canyon, but we all know Grand Canyon decided to be stupid and, drop their men's volleyball program. But Thatcher Fallbush has committed to Hawaii. His mom is actually from Hawaii, which I think is pretty cool. And then Alex Hines, who's committed to NJIT, he had 9 kills in the win as well. Wyatt Davis was also a solid contributor for Mira Costa. He had 6 kills, no hitting errors. He hit 750, and he also had 6 blocks. So he was big for the Mustangs as well. Also got to give some love to the libero, Justin Warner. He had a big role to fulfill after Johnny Dykstra graduated. He had 14 digs. Also, that was a pretty big night for him. We also got to see Andrew Chapin having 12 digs, along with 57 assists. So that was kind of the standouts from Mira Costa. For Huntington Beach, Logan Hutnick led the way with 22 kills. He also had 13 digs and 4 blocks. This dude is going to be the next big thing. I can see him suiting up for Long Beach State in the near future. Ben Arguello also had 13 kills for Huntington Beach. He also had 3 digs. Nick Gagne Jr. had 12 kills. He hit 478, which I thought was pretty solid. I will just say, I think Nick Gagne might have been an unsung hero for Huntington Beach. Like, that's probably the best I've seen him play in a hot minute. And probably the most efficient, because Nick Gagne is not that tall, and he's having to face some tall dudes over at Mira Costa. But he was very efficient, and I really can see a bright future ahead for Gagne. Colin Troy also had 9 kills and 10 digs. Kai Gann had 53 assists. He's committed to Harvard, by the way. So all in all, my takeaway for this was this match definitely lived up to the hype. It was number 1 in the nation versus number 2 in the nation. And honestly, it was definitely a fun and exciting matchup. I'm glad I was able to attend. It sucks that one team had to lose and one team had to win. But in the end, Mira Costa had all the experience. Now, I would have been definitely disappointed had Mira Costa lost because Mira Costa has so much talent and they worked so hard to get back to the big stage or get back to the finals at the very least, because their team is very senior laden, or at least their starting lineup is. They only have 2 underclassmen, Mateo Furbringer and Justin Warner. So in case you're wondering, 5 of their 7 starters are all seniors, and they were legit really good. Like, this was the alpha male team. Like, Huntington Beach did all that they could, and they have some senior leadership of their own. Their problem is that their pin hitters are all underclassmen. Logan Hutnick is only a sophomore. Colin Choi only a junior. Ben Arguello, he's only a junior. Nick Gagne is a senior. And like I said, I think he's going to have a bright future. I just hope he's able to continue at the next level. But overall, a very entertaining matchup. I really wish that NCAA men's volleyball fans could watch this as well. It was streamed on NFHS. So if you weren't at the match, you would have had to buy a subscription service, but I digress. But it was a very fun matchup. I applaud both these teams on an amazing match. I was just thoroughly impressed by both of the gameplay by both these teams. Mira Costa hit a whopping 367 while holding Huntington Beach to only 220. I thought that was big. Something else that was big was Mira Costa's blocking. They had 17 blocks compared to half of what Huntington Beach had. So I was just big time impressed by Mira Costa. They were just incredible. And these 2 teams could meet in the CIF state playoffs next week or this week, as that's actually a perfect segue to go into the CIF boys volleyball state playoffs. So it is actually the CIF state playoffs. It's no longer the CIF regionals. So this year is going to be the first official year we're going to see a SoCal team versus a NorCal team, which I think is pretty awesome if you ask me. So the regionals for this week are as follows. Tuesday is the first round. Thursday is the second round. And then the regional the regional semifinals or state quarterfinals are Thursday. And then the regional finals or state semifinals are this Saturday. And then the state final is going to be held at Fresno City College and is going to be on the 31st of May, which is a Saturday. Oh boy. It really sucks that I'm not going to be able to go to Fresno City College, because I think it's fair just because the girls volleyball final is at Santiago Canyon College. So I guess it's only fair that the boys volleyball final is going to be held in NorCal, whereas the girls volleyball state final is going to be held in SoCal more often than not. So I think it's only fair. And SoCal already has a big advantage having some nationally ranked teams like Huntington Beach, Mira Costa, and so on and so forth. But let's go over the bracket let's go over the NorCal bracket. So the NorCal bracket is Oak Ridge at number 1 seed Archbishop Mitty. No surprise to see Archbishop Mitty so good, just because Archbishop Mitty has a very good team, not just on the girls' side, but on the boys' side as well. And then on the 5 versus 4 is Northgate versus Clovis, or Northgate at Clovis. Then the 3 versus 6 is kind of an interesting matchup. St. Francis at Clovis East. That's a very good matchup. Those 2 teams are really good in terms of the NorCal area. Then you've got Wholesome at Harker, the Harker School, as your 7 versus 2 matchup. So I don't really know a lot of these teams. All I know is that Archbishop Mitty is just really good, and then St. Francis Clovis East is going to be a really good matchup. But these aren't the teams that aren't like ultimately ranked, but these are the best teams in the Northern California area, or the CIF Northern California section. So those are your creme de la creme when it comes to the Division 1 NorCal regional side. Now for the SoCal regional side, we have 8 seed Beckman at number 1 seed Mira Costa. So no surprise that Mira Costa is the number 1 overall seed. More often than not, the team that wins the CIF Southern section playoffs is the number 1 seed, unless the San Diego section is just much better. And then the 5 versus 4 seed is Newport Harbor at Torrey Pines. So this will, for Beckman, Mira Costa, it's going to be the second time these 2 teams will be meeting in 3 weeks. And then for Newport Harbor, Torrey Pines, this is kind of an interesting matchup because Newport Harbor has played Torrey Pines in tournaments 3 different times. They faced each other in 2 different tournaments 3 different times. They faced each other at the Best of the West tournament in San Diego, where Torrey Pines wound up winning that 1 and 2. And then they faced each other twice at the Redondo Power Classic in Redondo Beach, where Torrey Pines wound up winning one of the matches in 3, and then Newport Harbor wound up beating Torrey Pines in the tournament championship match in straight sets to win said tournament. So the 4th time is going to be very interesting for this team, for both these teams, and I think this is going to be a fun matchup. Now, Newport Harbor's got to realize that Torrey Pines ended their season last year, and Torrey Pines does have a stud. I think he's a junior that's committed to Stanford, and I think he's going to definitely do great things. But I've seen Newport Harbor play. They are a whole different team in the second half of their season. Like the first half, it didn't look like they had an identity. They were having to go the distance and having a little bit of trouble taking down some of the meh teams. And now they've really turned it around. Hence why they're seeded 5th. Now, the 6th seed, I think, should have kind of got the short end of the stick. Corona Del Mar is at Carlsbad. So Torrey Pines, in case you didn't know, they actually wound up losing in the CIF San Diego section championship against Carlsbad in 5 sets. Now, for Carlsbad, they're the number 3 seed, and I think this is a very, very big slight to Corona Del Mar, because here's my gripe with this. Corona Del Mar being the 6th seed behind Newport Harbor is kind of questionable, just because Corona Del Mar is currently ranked nationally higher than Newport Harbor is. I think Corona Del Mar is 5th. I think they're either 5th nationally ranked, but they're right behind Carlsbad. Whereas Newport Harbor, I think they're either 10th or 11th in the current Max Preps rankings. But apparently the selection committee threw all of that away, including Corona Del Mar's wins over Newport Harbor in the regular season. And I don't know what they based it off of. I really don't understand how Newport Harbor gets seeded over Corona Del Mar, because Newport Harbor's lost to Corona Del Mar twice this year. And maybe it's because they took into consideration that Newport Harbor beat Loyola in the playoffs, whereas Corona Del Mar's matchup against Loyola in the regular season, they wound up losing to them. But that regular season matchup was like forever ago. It just seemed like forever ago, and I just have a big gripe with that. I think that was like in week 2 of the boys volleyball season for Corona Del Mar. I just think that is a big gripe. That's my biggest gripe right there. And I just don't understand how Newport Harbor gets seated ahead of Corona Del Mar. I get it. Loyola was nationally ranked ahead of Newport Harbor, and that might have persuaded the committee. But honestly, it just doesn't make sense. And maybe they took into consideration Newport Harbor taking a set off of Huntington Beach, whereas Corona Del Mar got swept by Mira Costa. But it's like, I don't see in any way, shape, or form that Newport Harbor should be ranked ahead of Corona Del Mar or seeded ahead of Corona Del Mar. I think, if anything, Newport Harbor should be the 6th seed. Corona Del Mar should at least be the 5th seed, maybe the 4th seed. I think that is a big gripe, in my opinion. But I don't know. I'm not part of the selection committee, and I'm just speaking my mind. I just think that Corona Del Mar really got the short end of the stick, because I just don't get how they get seated below Newport Harbor when Corona Del Mar has 0 bad losses. It just makes 0 sense. Like, make it make sense. I'm sorry. It just bothers me. It just really bothered me. And some friends that I spoke to about this kind of said that this was boggling in their opinion. So, but I digress. What's done is done. And hopefully for Corona Del Mar's sake, that fuels the fire against a very talented Carlsbad team. And Carlsbad, they've only lost 2 matches all season, and they have not lost at home this season. Their only 2 losses are to Mira Costa, and believe it or not, those were not best 3 out of 5 matches. So, in other words, Carlsbad has yet to lose a best 3 out of 5 match, which I think is insane. But Corona Del Mar, they've played a tough schedule. They've played in arguably the best league in the nation. They have a bunch of talented players. I know most of their lineup is consisted of juniors, with Ben Brown leading the way, but they've got some other talented players. They've got Brogan Glenn, who's going to UCLA. He's their lone senior in their starting lineup. They've got Daniel Booker, who I think has drastically improved from his freshman year, and I think he's going to do great guns. So all in all, for Corona Del Mar, this could kind of be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, but we shall see. But Carlsbad's going to be really good, and don't be surprised if Carlsbad kind of overwhelms Corona Del Mar, but don't be surprised if Corona Del Mar wins that matchup. And then the last matchup, 7 versus 2, is Redondo Union at Huntington Beach. So Redondo Union and Huntington Beach will be facing each other for the second time in 3 weeks, which I think is pretty solid. I'm going to be at that match, and I'm going to be PA announcing that match, which I think is pretty solid. So I look forward to seeing the Seahawks and the Oilers take on one another. So I think it's pretty cool right there. And honestly, that's pretty much that for the CIF state playoffs. I think it's going to be very fun. It's going to be the first time we're actually going to have a CIF state playoffs. It's not just going to be regionals, and then that's the season. Because normally this would be the last week of the high school boys volleyball season in California. But there is still one more week, which is the state playoffs, which I think is pretty nice. So, or the state finals, which is going to be held at Fresno City. So that's pretty much that right there for the high school boys volleyball side of things. Again, definitely keep tabs on some of these boys. Keep tabs of some of the uncommitted boys on some of these teams as well, because some of these juniors are pretty darn good, if you ask me. So all in all, that's going to do it for the high school boys volleyball side of things. We're actually going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got some college volleyball to discuss in terms of the transfer portal and other college volleyball news. And then we've got the AVP happening and so much more. Keep it locked here. You were listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on The Defining Moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Neutral Zone and The Defining Moment. The Defining Moment is the flagship show of IE Sports Radio, which just turned 11 years old last Thursday. And honestly, I could not be more proud to be part of IE Sports Radio. Soon, my anniversary of joining IE Sports Radio is on the horizon. I think it might be in exactly 1 month, but I digress. Anyway, let's discuss some more volleyball action. So let's discuss some NCAA men's volleyball news. So last Tuesday, I want to say, it was announced on Instagram that Moni Nikolov is departing from Long Beach State after 1 season, after he was named the most outstanding player of the NCAA men's volleyball tournament, the AVCA newcomer and player of the year, the Big West freshman of the year, and the Big West player of the year. Moni Nikolov is departing from Long Beach State, as he'll be going pro. He'll actually be part of the VNL, the Bulgarian VNL men's volleyball national team this summer. So I think it's pretty cool. He'll be reuniting with his older brother, Alex, which I think is going to be awesome. But I had a feeling this was going to be the case just because, well, for starters, the writing I think was kind of on the wall just because I feel he just wanted to win a national championship and hope and basically like get out of there. And thankfully for his sake, he does have a national championship, unlike his older brother who fell short in the national championship. But it is what it is. And sometimes I think this was kind of obvious just because I feel he's so good. Like, he's probably way too good when it comes to NCAA men's volleyball. And I think he's just on a whole other level. Like, he is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers and whatnot. So, and heck, he might even be playing 3D chess while everyone is just playing regular chess. But I did manage to snag a picture of he and I before his departure. And I think I might have gotten the wrong one, but I got 2 pictures of he and I. But all in all, I was able to snag a quick picture with him. I had a feeling if he was going to be departing, I definitely needed to get a picture with him or a picture of him. And he's just a player. He's just a man of the people right there. So, all in all, I'm going to be posting some more flicks that I got of Moni Nikolov when he was at the Long Beach State men's volleyball celebration or welcome back celebration. So, yeah, so I think this might have been a different pick, but there was one where, yeah, I think this one might be the same. Gosh darn it. But here is Moni Nikolov signing a little girl's shoe. I thought that was pretty awesome right there. Here's a better pick right there. So, yeah, Moni Nikolov is a man of the people. And honestly, I'm going to miss him. I think all of Long Beach State is going to miss him, but he had a fantastic career at Long Beach State, even though it was only 1 year. But honestly, he made the most of it. And it's going to feel a little weird without him. But I think he's going to do great things. And I'm honored that I actually got a picture with him. But he will be missed, but he's going to crush it in the pros. So, yeah, I think this one might be slightly different. They're both pretty much the same. But there you go. Those are my little flicks of Moni at the Long Beach State men's volleyball welcome back celebration at the Walter Pyramid in Long Beach, California, on the campus of Long Beach State. So there you have it right there. Moni Nikolov is going pro. He is bidding adieu to Long Beach State, but he's going to be crushing it. And Jen B says, hope you're having a great show, Teran. Well, thank you, Jen. I appreciate that. She is the host of the Show of the Land, our Ohio sports show. She definitely talks some Ohio State men's volleyball, as well as some Ohio State women's volleyball, as well as some Columbus Fury. But back to the action. This news was kind of expected, but honestly, Moni Nikolov is just too big time. This was kind of the same thing with his older brother. His older brother just had a fantastic career at Long Beach State, even though it was short. He was named the player of the year and the freshman of the year, and not just on the Big West side, but in the national side of things. The only difference is that Moni wound up leading Long Beach State to the national championship. So now the big question is, who will be the setter for Long Beach State next year? Will it be Jake Pizzanti? Will it be someone else? Will it be Island Doty? Though it's just a time will tell process, and that's going to be very competitive. It's going to be very competitive when it comes to fall ball and whatnot. But right now, I think Long Beach State just wants to just enjoy the moment and just not worry about who's going to be the next who's going to be the next setter and whatnot. All I know is that Alex Kondev is going to be coming back, as well as a bunch of other really talented players. So there you have it right there. All right, but that's that for that Moni Nikolov news. So let's go over the off-the-block media poll, men's volleyball media poll. So this is the final poll. This was released I think it was last Wednesday or last Thursday. I got to vote for this one last time. Only 7 voters got to vote, but I swear I was one of them. Anyway, so off the block men's volleyball media poll. So Long Beach State was the unanimous number 1, UCLA 2, Hawaii 3, Pepperdine 4, Loyola and UC Irvine both tied for 5th. Honestly, I kind of got to give the edge to Loyola. I mean, they did have a few losses. They did lose to Lewis twice. They did have the loss to McKendree, but they eventually avenged the Lewis loss at the very least, and they eventually got further than McKendree. I mean, do I really want to say that McKendree would not have beaten Loyola? I don't know, but I think Loyola does deserve to be ahead of UC Irvine. I get it. Some are going to make the argument that UC Irvine does not deserve to be behind Pepperdine because they beat Pepperdine. But at the same time, UC Irvine sadly just did not make the NCAA tournament, and that's kind of my understanding. That's kind of the also same gripe when it comes to UC Irvine in the AVCA poll, but I digress. So USC was voted 7th. BYU and McKendree were both tied for 8th, and then CSUN was voted 10th. So here's who I voted for. So I voted Long Beach State at 1, UCLA 2, Hawaii 3, Pepperdine 4. I put Loyola at 5 just based off of them making the NCAA tournament. I know they lost to Pepperdine as opposed to UC Irvine being Pepperdine, but they also beat Pepperdine in the regular season. So I kind of gave the slight edge to Loyola on that one. I put UC Irvine at 6. Put USC at 7 because why not? I put BYU at 8 just because I feel BYU just had a little bit more, I wouldn't say better wins. I mean, but they didn't have too many bad losses. I think McKendree kind of fell off a little. They had the loss to Ohio State. Well, losses to Ohio State. And then they had the loss to Ball State, which I thought was definitely avoidable. Had they not lost to Ball State, I think they would have been the outright MIVA champions, and they probably would have maybe had a better shot at making the NCAA tournament. But it is what it is, and we can't turn back time. And then I put CSUN at 10. I kid you not. I actually had this as my ballot. And if it weren't for me not being allowed to screenshot things or post them on our streams, I would definitely show you all. But this is who I really voted for. I kid you not. So that's that for the Off the Block men's volleyball media poll. So let's move on to some NCAA men's volleyball transfer news. So I talked a little bit about this. I talked about Alexander Sosa transferring from Quincy to Loyola Chicago, which I thought was big. But you also have other players like Jackson Herr transferring to Penn State. That's interesting just because they've already got Michael Schwob as the setter as well. So I don't know what Mark Pavlik's going to want to do, and he's also got Josh Rosenblum as well in the fold as well. So a lot of setter battles right there. Then you got Travell Jordan transferring from GCU to Hawaii. I wonder why. Maybe it was something that Jamie Boggs and company did at GCU. I'm looking at you, GCU Athletic Administration. Anyway, we also had, like I mentioned, Alexander Sosa transferring from Quincy to Loyola. You also had Trent Moser transferring from GCU to BYU. BYU got 3 players from GCU via the transfer portal. Then they got Connor Oldani from GCU to BYU, which I thought was big. And then continuing on, we had Kyle Sadiker transferring from GCU to BYU. And then although this guy isn't an NCAA men's volleyball, he was initially committed to GCU, but because GCU dropped their men's volleyball program, Thatcher Fallbush flipped his commitment. So he went from GCU all the way to Hawaii, which I think is huge because even though he didn't get a chance to play with Tread Rosenthal, the Mira Costa connection is back. And I think it's huge for Hawaii, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome. I know Tread Rosenthal was initially from Austin, Texas, but he eventually moved to Southern California, Manhattan Beach, attended Mira Costa High, and eventually he was a pretty darn good player, if you ask me. And who knows? Maybe if he had stayed for his senior year, maybe Mira Costa wins CIF last year, but We will never know. But anyway, that is that for the NCAA men's volleyball transfer portal news. Jumping over to the NCAA women's volleyball transfer portal news. All right, this one is going to be a little bit more off the wall. It's going to be going rapid fire. So UCLA landed not one but two transfers. They got Lola Schumacher from Wisconsin, which I thought was big, and they also got Mariana Singletary from Texas. And then Florida landed Flo Marie Heredia Colon from Miami, so she's not going too far. And this is kind of after Kennedy Martin transferred to Penn State, which I thought was very huge. That was a big pickup for Penn State. Just when we all thought Penn State was going to be taking a step back, they get her. And now they're probably going to be in contention for another national championship under Katie Schumacher Colley, which I think is pretty nice as well. So, but for UCLA is legit amazing. They have a legit shot at making the NCAA tournament. Now, for UCLA, it seems like they just can't seem to get out of their own way. It seems like something is tripping them up. But they've got PK Kong, a really talented middle blocker, formerly of Louisville. They got Mariana Singletary. They got Lola Schumacher. They got Zayna Meyer from Long Beach State. She's probably going to be vying for the setter position. They also got Hazel Alavok coming in, and she's one of the more highly decorated players from the class of 2025. And then they also got Maggie Lee coming in from Cal, and Maggie G coming in from Cal, which there's no way UCLA misses the NCAA tournament. With all that talent, there is no way, I repeat, no way UCLA should be missing the NCAA tournament. Last year, they were a game under 500, which meant they were gone. They couldn't make the NCAA tournament. And they were actually starting off ranked. They even pulled off an upset to start the season. You can't tell me with a straight face this UCLA team should not be vying for at least a spot in the tournament. Now, I'm not sure about national championship, but with the amount of talent that this team has coming in via the transfer portal and via their recruiting class, there's no way UCLA should not be in the running. I think they're going to be taking a step forward. Oregon's probably going to be taking a step back with their new coaching staff and the departure of Mimi Collier and so on and so forth. I think USC could also maybe take a step forward just because they've got a good recruiting class coming in. And I'm not sure about transfers themselves. They got a few from the transfer portal, but nothing that really pops out like they did with Allie Batenhorst. But all in all, I think they're going to be in contention. I think Washington can make a return trip back to the NCAA tournament. This is just from the Big Ten, by the way. And that's pretty much it regarding that. I mean, it's still a little early when it comes to some NCAA women's volleyball news. But we also, speaking of the Big Ten, Nebraska actually landed an opposite from Italy. They landed Virginia Adriano. I probably mispronounced that, but I digress. But Virginia Adriano, she actually comes from Turin, Italy, which I think is big. So that just gives Nebraska another weapon on the right side, which I think is pretty strong as well. I'm not sure how many years she has of eligibility. I think she might have three years, but all in all for Nebraska, the rich just continue to get richer. There's no way I can't imagine Nebraska not contending. Nebraska should be contending for a national championship. UCLA should be contending for at least a spot in the NCAA tournament. USC might have some growing pains. They did lose quite a bit. They do return players like London Wijay, Adania Famuina, and so much more. And when I saw them in their scrimmage, they obviously didn't have their full team. And if you saw my interview with Brad Keller, he told me that he was still missing some players from his recruiting class. I mean, they have Taylor Decker in as their libero, but it's not even a guarantee that she'll be getting to start at the libero position. But time will tell. Anyway, again, NCAA women's volleyball, it doesn't start for another 3 months. 3 months. So we shall see when it comes to the NCAA women's volleyball season on who will be in contention for the national championship and who will be pretending, who will be contending, and who's going to be flying under the radar, especially when it comes to be covering the Big West. I know the Big West in women's volleyball isn't everyone's cup of tea, but honestly, it is what it is. It's kind of my cup of tea. UC Irvine and Long Beach State love me, as well as Hawaii, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so that is that for the NCAA women's volleyball transfer portal news. So let's actually keep this going. So let's actually talk about some USA volleyball. So the VNL men's and women's preliminary rosters have been released. The women start the VNL on June 4th in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and then the men are actually a week after in the same place. So the women, I couldn't fit every name onto this list, but the players that are on, let's start off on the men's side. So the men's volleyball VNL preliminary roster are as follows: Camden Gianni, Caleb Jennis, Mason Briggs, Jeff Jendrick, Kyle Ensing, Quinn Isaacson, Jacob Pastor, Kevin Cobrine, Gabby Garcia. I thought he had a longer name than that, but Gabby Garcia out of BYU, Kyle D'Agostino, Shane Holdaway, Micah Ma, Kyle Hobus, Jacob Riley, Andrew Rowan, Cooper Robinson, Patrick Gassman, Cam Thorne, Zach Rama, Eric Shoji, Nolan Flexen, Merrick McHenry, Ethan Champlin, Tread Rosenthal, Michael Marshman, Matt Knigge, Jordan Ewart, Daniel Wetter, Michael Wright, and Parker Tompkinson. So some of these players that I just named off of are still in college, like Parker Tompkinson, Andrew Rowan, Cooper Robinson just recently graduated. Cam Thorne, Zach Rama, they're still in college. Tread Rosenthal is still in college. He's still a baby in terms of like youth and whatnot, but I think Parker Tompkinson might have taken that from under his nose. But all that's pretty much your men's roster right there. And this team is pretty much stacked from top to bottom. This team is legit good. So like high talent, experience all around. All right, so that's that for the men's side. So on the women's side of things, the preliminary roster is as follows: Jordan Poulter, Avery Skinner, Ali Fronti, Morgan Hentz, Lexi Rodriguez, Breon Butler, Maddie Skinner, Jenna Gray, Taylor Mims, Amber Igidi, Anna Dodson, Rachel Fairbanks, Dana Redke, Zoe Jarvis, formerly known as Fleck, Asia O'Neill, Kalia Lanier, Daniel Catino, Roni Jones-Perry, Sarah Franklin, Lauren Briseno, Olivia Babcock, who's still in college, Tia Jimerson, Ella Mae Powell, Logan Lednicki, Molly McCage, Mackenzie Adams, Sage Ka'aina Torres, Logan Eggleston, Stephanie Samity, and Serena Gray. So that's pretty much that for the VNL preliminary roster. Babcock, I know, is still in college. She's going to be returning to Pitt. Heaven forbid nothing drastic happens. And Eric Sullivan's going to be leading the women's roster, where Karch Karai is leading the men's roster. For those that kind of missed that news, Karch Karai is now the men's coach, and Eric Sullivan is now the women's coach in terms of the national teams, which I think is pretty darn awesome if you ask me. So there you have right there. I don't really have too much to go over. I'm not going to try to predict which players are going to be on said roster. It does feel a little weird without Catherine Plummer. Like maybe she's still, like, I don't know if she's pretty much going to be banking on a return. Again, I don't want to make assumptions and whatnot. So there you have it right there. So that's pretty much that for the U.S. roster via the VNL. This is only the preliminary roster. The final roster, I imagine, is going to be released in about a week or so. Probably a week. Don't quote me on that, but that's pretty much what I'm guessing. I'm going to say it's probably going to be a week. Yeah, probably a week, because the VNL starts not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. In other words, it starts in 16 more days, which I think is pretty cool if you ask me. So that's pretty much that for the USA women's volleyball and men's volleyball portion of the show. Best believe I'm going to be covering the VNL. It'll be tough trying to get everything down pat, especially since there's going to be a lot of teams partaking in this. But all in all, I think it's going to be fun times. I got to keep myself busy when it comes to the summer. It's either that or I'm going to need to try to get some get some guests on for the summer as well, which more on that later. But that's going to do it for the USA Volleyball portion of the show. We're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we've got some AVP to discuss, and then we've got some planning to do for next week's 300th episode of Set Point. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Mike from Indie Sports Nation. Come hang out with me each and every Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk things Indiana sports. We talk Colts, Pacers, Fever, Indy Ignite, and we dive into the college scene as well. Boilermakers, Hoosiers, Irish, Bulldogs, and every school in between. And we don't stop there. We'll sprinkle in some NHRA and cover the IndyCar series. From the turf to the hardwood to the track, we got you covered. Come hang out with your boy, Big Mike, each and every Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Indie Sports Nation, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with the final segment of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Extra Mile with Dale Kinsey Jr. and friends. The Indy 500 is this weekend. And speaking of the Indy, you also have Indie Sports Nation with Big Mike. He does a fantastic job with the show. He even said he talks Indy Ignite. And that actually is a perfect segue to go into this little segment. So the Indy Ignite's coach has resigned. So this was kind of caught me off guard when when it came to this news. I was like, whoa. So right off the bat, already after leading his team to the team's inaugural season and PVF championship, he steps down as the head coach, which I thought was pretty surprising. So Indy Ignite is now in search of a new head coach. So it's really crazy if you ask me, but it is what it is. And sometimes that's just business if you ask me. So all in all, when it came to this news, this was just very shocking if you ask me. But sometimes that's just how it is. And I wish him the best going forward. I'm trying to pull up the press release when it came to this, but yeah, this just comes only 1 week after the team wound up going to the Match for a Million match, which I thought was pretty crazy if you ask me. And now they are in search of a new head coach. So yeah, Coach Padrin. So, yeah, he announced his resignation, and I'm going to read you all the press release. But, yeah, if you want my opinion, this is kind of tough, if you ask me. So, head coach George Padgett will not return for the 2026 season. Padgett resigned last week following the end of the Ignite's 2025 inaugural season, which culminated in the Ignite finishing as the runner-up to the Orlando Valkyries in the PVF's championship. Padgett cited a desire to spend more time with family as a reason for his resignation, which will take effect immediately. So family is just as important, and this is totally understandable. And the president and general manager, general manager, Mary Kay Hughes, was grateful for Padgett and the first season. And she says, we wish him the best going forward. Just paraphrasing. And the search for a new head coach for the Indy Ignite will begin immediately, and so on and so forth. Blah, 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 blah. Media contact, yeah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, all right. So, yeah, that news aside, I'm very surprised by this, but family is more important, and coaching can get really taxing. So, I totally understand the reason for this. So, I wish him the best going forward, and I salute to him for a fantastic first season and helping put the Indy Ignite on the map in their first season of the PVF. All right, but that is that for that little quick bit of news right there. That's pretty much that for all the PVF until further notice. But this week or this weekend, we've got some AVP happening as the AVP League is this weekend. Week 1 begins as you've got the teams that are on screen right there. So let's actually go over the AVP League team. So we'll start off with the Austin Aces. So the Austin Aces, we'll go over the women's and men's side. So the Austin Aces women's duo is Taryn Brasher and Kristen Nuss. And then the men's duo is former set point guest Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison. For the Brooklyn Blaze, their men's duo is Sean Cook and Brian Miller, while their women's duo is Lexi Denneberg and Julia Donlin. So in case you're wondering who Julia Donlin is, that's actually Julia Scholes. She recently got married. Oh, didn't recently got married. She got married last year, and I thought that was pretty cool. So now she's Julia Donlin and not Julia Scholes. Then the Dallas Dream, last year's runner-up from the AVP League. Their men's duo is still Miles Partain and Andy Benish, while their women's duo is Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg, who actually wound up winning gold this past weekend with Teran Rodriguez. But more on that later. For the LA Launch, their men's duo is Hagen Smith and Logan Weber, while the women's duo is Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft. For the Miami Mayhem, the men's duo is consisted of James Shaw and Kame Shulk, while the women's duo is consisted of Molly Shaw and Kelly Chang. For the New York Nitro, which I think is a pretty really good name. I think that might be the best name in the AVP League. Of the New York Nitro, their men's duo consists of Team Taylor, Taylor Crabb, and Taylor Sander. And then their women's duo consists of Megan J. Rice and Corinne Quiggle. For the Palm Beach Passion, their women's duo consists of Melissa Jimena Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson, the Canadian duo that wound up winning silver in the Olympics last year. And then the men's duo consists of Phil Dalhauser and Trevor Crabb. Yes, Trevor Crabb is still in the AVP. Despite us all thinking that he was going to be retiring, and despite him even going on record saying that he's got future plans, he's still in the AVP League, which means we'll still have some crab broilers, if you ask me, or crab boilers, which I think is pretty awesome. I hope we get some crab versus crab action. So There you have it right there. And then the last team, last year's AVP League champion, the San Diego Smash, their men's duo consists of Chase Budinger and Miles Evans. And then their women's duo consists of Teran Rodriguez and Gina Arango. So that's that for the AVP League teams. A little bit of some changes, some newcomers coming in. Obviously, we have some new partnerships happening. If you all have been paying attention to the AVP and whatnot. So on screen, you have week 1 of the AVP League. So you've got, this is probably the best way to kick off a league. A rematch of last year's championship. The Dallas Dream take on the San Diego Smash, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's a half hour of matches, and then the second half hour is like the men's match, if not the women's match, and vice versa. And then the next hour will be the Palm Beach Passion taking on the Brooklyn Blaze to close off Friday's matches. And then on Saturday, you've got Brooklyn versus San Diego. And then in the next hour, you've got Palm Beach versus Dallas, which will be the final hour. It'll be men's versus women's or vice versa. I can't really tell, honestly. I actually don't have the AVP website pulled up, but I digress. But it's going to be, the AVP League is a little confusing, but if you follow along throughout the entire season, it gets a little easier. And there's actually been a change when it comes to the AVP League. So now 6 teams can qualify for the AVP League Championship, which I think is crazy. So now 2 teams have been added, so I think it's pretty nice if you ask me. So it gives some more teams a chance to qualify for the AVP League. So the top 6 advance, and then 7th place and 8th place, you deservedly don't deserve to make the AVP League Championship, but I digress. So apparently there's also going to be an individual like AVP Championships and AVP League Championships. This is courtesy of Mark Sherman. I don't want to play the video just because I don't want us to get copyright and whatnot. So you'll have to go on the AVP's Instagram or X. Heaven forbid they posted it on X. But yeah, they posted the new AVP League rules courtesy of Mark Sherman. And I think it's going to be a very fun league year. I'm going to do my best to try to, go to these events and keep tabs on these events. It'll be really tough just because there's no Huntington Beach League week, which I think is sucky, but it is what it is. And I don't think there's one in Manhattan Beach, which is even more sucky. So yeah, that's a bummer right there, but it is what it is. Again, I'm going to do my best to try to like keep tabs of this. Again, the AVP League, I'm still trying to get used to, but it is what it is, and I really want to keep tabs of the AVP, and I want to grow this thing, and hopefully I will be able to get like maybe a partnership with this, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, but that is that. But that's not the only AVP event that's happening this weekend. You've got the AVP's Palm Beach Open. So with all of the big names playing in the AVP League, it's kind of going to be tough to I wouldn't say follow this. This is going to be played at Pompano Beach in Pompano, Florida. But this is a contender event. It's not like the Heritage event and whatnot, but it is still a tournament. It's got some names. It's got some notable names. It's $60,000 in terms of its prize purse, which I think is pretty nice for both genders. So I do want to talk to you. I do want to give you all some of the pairs. So some notable pairs on the women's side are as follows. You got Elena Chacon and Morgan Chacon. That's a pretty nice little pair right there. You've got Alexis Durish and Audrey Koenig, another pair of Florida State players. Looking else, you got Carly Can. She's partnered up with Hannah Rooks. You've got come on, there's got to be some Kennedy Coakley and Ashley Pater, the USC pair, which I think is nice to see them partnering up. You've got Macy Jerger, who's partnered up with Maureen Kina. That's nice right there. You got Maddie Mae Anderson partnering up with Brooke Bauer, another Florida State connection. You got Piper Furch and Maddie Shields partnering up. So Maddie Shields is a veteran, former indoor player at Pepperdine and former beach player at USC. And then Piper Furch is a current player on Cal Poly's roster. And then you got Savvy Simo and Abby Van Winkle. That's probably the big name right there. And that's probably the pair that unfortunately missed out on the AVP League. But it is what it is. And then you've got, I forget Taylor Hagenow and Malia Gementera, the Long Beach State duo, who might go down as one of the best Long Beach State duos, which I think is pretty nice. So all this is taking place on Pompano Beach, Fisher Family Pier. So not to get confused with Fisher's Family Center in Indiana, but I digress. So on the men's side, here's some notable pairs or notable players. You've got Diego Perez. Okay, he's not that big time, but he's a former indoor player turned beach. And Dylan Zaka. You've got Evan Corey. He's partnered up with Caleb Queckel. So his partner, he posts on Instagram that he's got a new partner and he's taking suggestions on who he should be partnering up with in the near future. But Evan Corey is a notable name. You've got still trying to. Okay, who else is like notable on this website? God, they made this. They got Theo Brunner and Ryan Wilcox. That's a really good duo right there. You got Theo Brunner, who's an AVP veteran, and Ryan Wilcox partnering with one another. That is pretty fun right there. You got Troy Field partnering up with Ford Harmon. That's another nice little duo. You got Wyatt Harrison partnering up with Charlie Sira. I'm going to butcher this name. Charlie Siragoose. Charlie Siragoose. Wyatt Harrison and Charlie Siragoose are partnered up with one another. So I'm going to take the assumption that since the Austin Aces aren't playing, Wyatt Harrison can play in this tournament. So that's kind of a fair deal right there. Now I'm guessing if the Austin Aces did play, he would not be partaking in said tournament. But I digress. I'm trying to see if there are any other notable pairs right in this tournament. Does not look like it in my opinion. I mean, I know who Cash Adamson is. He played at Orange Coast College and now he's playing beach. You've got Devin Berkey is a notable name right there. He's an AVP veteran. And I think that Lev Prima, he's partnered up with Jacob Landell. He's a notable name right there. And that is pretty much that. I don't really want to go over all the names, and it doesn't look like there is a qualifier event for this, but that's pretty much that for some of the notable names that's going to be partaking in the AVP's Palm Beach Open this weekend. So there you have right there. And that's that for all of the AVP news. And yeah, I know this is going to be a shorter show than past weeks where I have like almost like maybe close to 2-hour shows, but next week is actually going to be a big week next week. So next week is actually episode 300 of Set Point. Not too many shows on iSports Radio, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way, but not too many shows on iSports Radio have crossed the 300 mark, the 300 episode threshold. There's the Defining Moment, who's had multiple shows, probably beforehand when it first went live on Mixler. And then you've got the 3 and Out, which have had many primetime face-offs. And then you've had the Extra Mile, which is at 313 episodes. And next week, Set Point will be joining the 300 episode club. So I really want to make the 300th episode of Set Point one of the most memorable episodes of Set Point. So I'm going to do my darndest to try to get me some guests. I will also take suggestions on who you all think that I should get as guests. I really want to make episode 300 of Set Point one of the most memorable ones. I know episode 200 was pretty memorable when I had Avery Drost, and he just had an amazing story toward the end of his little time with me. And then I also had Mark Rosen on my 200th episode. And then on episode 100, I had like a smorgasbord of guests. I had Craig Pizzanti, the Huntington Beach boys and girls volleyball coach. I had Terry Brown and oh man, I'm blanking on the other guy's name. Vinny Hardy and Terry Brown of Cast Talk Wednesdays on BS3 Network. And then I also had the former radio announcer for Stanford Volleyball or Stanford Athletics. So all in all, I really want to make episode 300 amazing and notable. But I also still want to go over the volleyball that happened from this past week. I also want to go over the AVP. I'll also be going over a little of the CIF state playoffs in terms of boys volleyball. But other than that, we don't have too much volleyball to recap. So that's kind of the reason why. That's another reason why I'm getting guests for episode 300. So I promise you all, I'm gonna cook with this episode 300. I'm gonna have to ask quite a bit of people, and hopefully their schedules will be doable. If not, I might have to push set point back just to coincide, just to help. What's the word? Make sure that the schedules of my guests does not have any conflicts with set point and whatnot. So there you go. All right, but that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Again, I will see you all next week for episode 300 of Set Point. Also see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, and I'll see you Tuesday at Huntington Beach High for Huntington Beach versus Redondo Union in CIF State Boys Volleyball. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, whether it's indoor, whether it's on the beach, whether it's at the lower levels, whether it's at the professional level. Just enjoy all the volleyball action. I will see you all tomorrow at Huntington Beach High and on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. And remember, apply that sunscreen. It is going to get hot by the day. Peace!